good vibrations.
My guest today is author, producer, and truth seeker Jason Shurka. Welcome on the show, Jason.
Thank you very much, Mark.
So you've been a constant voice through this scamdemic psyop. You've been offering a lot of reassurance and positivity to people. Your messages have been quite similar, to my mind, to those of Laurie Ladd. I think you did a show with her recently. I found a lot of value in her work. And also yours. You put out a lot of inspiring messages. So, I think people have found a lot of value in what you've had to say these past several months.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
Sure. So how many books have you written now?
3.
Okay. And what the world has been through these past couple of years can be viewed and considered on different levels. A lot of people are looking at the real world geopolitical stuff, the nuts and bolts and the fine detail of this entire agenda and how it's all been carried out. But you can also look at it from a spiritual, metaphysical point of view. And
Absolutely.
I think it's fair to say that this is where your attention lies, right?
I would say actually my attention is in all of it. I do put an emphasis on the spiritual side because I believe that is the foundation of it all. But I do bring attention to the foundation and the surface because they do work hand in hand to understand the bigger picture.
And the scamdemic and that which it's a smaller part of, because there's a much bigger agenda, has been rightly described as World War III. Only this one is a war for the mind. It's a war on consciousness. It's very different to other wars that have been fought, isn't it? It's kind of the first of its kind in human history, I guess, on this scale.
Well, I think this war has been happening for a long time. People were just too asleep to be aware that there was a spiritual war going on. And the proof that we have to make what I just said valid is the fact that, listen, when you put fluoride in your water, that's a spiritual war. You're destroying your body on every level. That's a spiritual war. That started a long time ago. When you started putting Roundup in our food, that's a spiritual war. So this has been going on for a very, very long time. People are only starting to wake up to it now on a worldwide level. But there were people that were aware of this already 40, 50, 60 years ago. So what you're seeing now is nothing new. The only thing that's new is that people are starting to bring attention to it on a global level.
There's a notion that our greatest gifts often come disguised as our worst nightmares, and that's been expressed to me a few times lately. Do you feel that everything that humanity is going through now was kind of written? Was it inevitable that we would have to go through this shit as part of our necessary evolution? And if you feel that's the case, have the evildoers actually then, in a very twisted kind of way, done us a favor by forcing us to react to this situation?
Well, I wouldn't say that the hardships we're going through right now is inevitable, because ultimately we choose, right? So we didn't have to go through this. We chose to go through it. So our choices in the world, in the universe, there's what I call the law of balance. If we choose to do something, the only thing that's inevitable is us as humanity, as all life, not divided now, as a united organism of life, a unit, reaching our destiny that I would call harmony, love, freedom, peace, bliss, nirvana, whatever you want to call it. Now, that's the only thing that I would call inevitable. The question is, what happens along the way? So when we choose certain scenarios to manifest, like, for example, go to World War II, Hitler was elected into power. That was a choice on the people. Now, there will be some people that say that election was fixed. Well, whether you believe that election was fixed or not doesn't change the fact that he had many, many followers in the form of soldiers taking guns and shooting babies. That was their choice. That wasn't Hitler. That was the choice of the people. So my point is all of these things that we see that are going on, number one, not because it's inevitable, but because we chose for them to happen. To answer the second part of your question, yeah, I would say that we owe a very big thank you to those psychopaths, evildoers in power doing what they're doing, because they're helping us wake up to the truth of our destiny. with all the resistance that we're being faced with. So again, this is all happening because of our inevitable destiny of reaching a harmonious life. The more we choose to experience chaos, the more chaos will come in the form of resistance that will in turn wake us up. So it's all being done for our own good at the end of the day. In terms of the universe, God, whatever you want to call it, it doesn't happen to us. It works for us. And sometimes it's hard to accept that because we say, well, why would what's going on over the past 2 years in any way be helpful to us? Because a lot of people are dying, a lot of people are getting hurt, a lot of people are being brainwashed, a lot of people are being suppressed and controlled, and so on and so forth. But at the same time, with that, because of the law of balance, there are so many people that are waking up, changing their lives, and seeing the world in a different light through a new level of awareness. So it is a beautiful thing. We just have to choose to see it from that perspective and then run with it.
Sure. What happens when those applying their consciousness towards a better deal for all humanity remain in a minority, as we quite clearly still are, and what they wish to see manifest is prevented from taking place by the masses who remain in debased states of spiritual ignorance? Is it a given that eventually those forces of positivity will snowball and cause the pendulum to start swinging in the opposite direction? Can a minority get that done if they're aligning themselves with right action? Does creation honor the wishes of those who seek to put goodness and light into the world, or will it facilitate evil for as long as that remains the default state of most people in line with our collective gift of free will?
Sure. So first of all, I want to speak about the idea of the minority. When it comes to the foundation of it all, spiritually speaking, majority or minority has nothing to do with numbers. It has everything to do with energy. That's what they call a critical mass, meaning and I'm just going to throw out numbers. If there was a map of consciousness from 1 to 1,000, and by the way, I believe David Hawking speaks about this, and he calls it the map of consciousness calibrated from 1 to 1,000 on a spectrum. Somebody that holds a state of consciousness equating to the number 750 would balance out, 500 would balance out 750,000 other people that are at about 150 to 200, which means that although we may seem like the minority in numbers, we are not the minority energetically. As more and more, what I'm trying to say is a higher state of awareness or a higher state of consciousness in one person can hold more weight and balance out hundreds of thousands, if not hundreds of millions of people, depending on the person and their state. With that being said, even on the numbers level, I wouldn't go as far to say that we're the minority. What I mean by that is, sure, the mainstream media can say whatever they want, but if you go to any page on social media having to do with the current administration running the United States, let's say, go to the White House Instagram's page and go to any post and go to any comment, you're not going to find one good comment. Go to Bill Gates's Instagram page, go to any post and go to any comment, what you're going to see is comments were shut off. And comments were shut off because he was getting too many death threats and too many negative comments. What that goes to show us is we may not be the minority. If we were the minority, why would YouTube remove the count of the dislike button? Maybe because they don't want us to see how many people are actually disliking the trailer of the Fauci documentary that Disney Plus put out. Because those numbers were 8,000 likes and 132,000 dislikes. So they make us think that we're the minority, but we're not. We've never been the minority. What I could say is there a minority of people that are as passionate as me and other people in this space like yourself? Yeah, I agree with you. However, there isn't the majority of people who wants to go and run and get every booster that they can. The majority of people, they're just simply not aware. So they're like, oh my God, they're forcing us to do this again. We hate it, but we're going to take it because we want to travel. We're going to take it because we want life to be easier for us. That doesn't mean that the majority is buying the narrative. That just means that the majority is sick and tired of everything. They don't see the magnitude of the negative repercussions of things like this. So they just go with it, which means that the majority of people are really on the border. They're not on the other side. And if anything, if they're swinging anywhere, they're swinging to the side of truth. They're swinging to the side of being sick and tired of dealing with this. And every single time a new booster comes out during this pandemic, more and more people say we're not getting it. So I wouldn't call us the minority. I'd call us the majority, because that's what we are. That's what the data shows.
I see that. You touched on the dynamic of coercion there, and it kind of ties into free will. So free will is our greatest gift, the ability to make choices for ourselves. But it's not really free will if it's been obtained through coercion and trickery. And this is what the control system employs. They're not generally known for being upfront about what they're doing. So they've not told us that what's going on right now is a genocidal agenda to try and reduce vast swathes of the population. They're dressing it up to be something else, and they're coercing people into cooperating with it. So while they may feel that we're making free will decisions for ourselves collectively, on the part of so many people, they're not being armed with the full facts of the situation. So it's not really free will. They're not really choosing these behaviors. And so the burden of karma, I feel, still falls on the orchestrators of this narrative rather than those employing behaviors that they've been tricked into. You see what I mean with that?
Yes, I don't completely agree. I agree from the level that you're speaking on, but I'm going to bring a different level as well. Everything you said is 100% true. However, if you go to the deeper foundation of what's really going on here, yeah, you can say because we're not being, which you're right, we're not being informed. Most people aren't being informed. They can't make an informed decision, and therefore we don't have free will. However, on another level of thought over here and existence, everybody has the free will to go and look at whatever side of the argument they want. Just because Facebook and Instagram and YouTube censor certain things doesn't mean they can't go to Rumble, BitChute, and Telegram. You know, there is always access to the truth. So we could play the victim game all we want and say, oh, those in power are playing a very smart game. They're not letting us know what's going on, and therefore it's their fault. I don't buy that. Maybe they're making it easier for other people to remain asleep, but everybody has the free will to go and search for the truth. And until we do that collectively, we're going to continue sitting here. So that's why I'm saying, yeah, you could say the burden of karma is on their side, but it's also on our side, because we're choosing collectively. And when I say we, I always refer to humanity. We still have the opportunity to go and look and go and research and go and ask questions. The fact that people aren't doing that isn't because they're forced not to do that. It's because they're choosing not to do that. Are they choosing not to do that because somebody made it easier for them not to be informed? Yes, but it's still on us, because we do have the free will to do what we want to do. We do have the free will not to comply, just like the Canadian truckers. They have the free will to say, no, we're employees of a business. We're not going to comply with this business, and we're out. And guess what's happening? Now the burden of karma has just shifted because people are exercising their freedom of choice. So free will always exists. The only thing that those in power that you're talking about can do is make us far removed from free will, but they can never actually take it away. Because even if they say you either take this or you don't have a job, I still have the free will to say no. I still have the free will to band people together, enough people together, and say we're not going to do it. And if enough people come together, then those people trying to impose things upon us won't hold ground, because they need our compliance to be able to push that on us. So we've always had free will, and we will always have free will.
It's a very unfortunate thing that karma, consequentialism occurs on a societal collective basis as well as an individual basis. So there will be individuals who take a stand for right action, and they oppose tyranny, and they do whatever's required to align themselves with truth. But they're going to be held back by others in society who remain in states of base ignorance. And the universe responds to that by giving that entire society what it reaps in terms of its collective consciousness. So those of us who choose not to be a part of these agendas get swept up alongside all the others who are allowing it to continue. That's just one of the harsh, truthful realities of the way consequentialism works, I guess.
You know what? One thing I want to bring up with that also, the only reason we're still having that conversation is because of what we can call a consciousness of division. A lot of people say, I don't want that. I'm not choosing that. Why do I have to experience that? The answer is because there is no I. We're a unit. We're a unit. Look at the human body. The human body is made of trillions and trillions of different cells. Knowing that all of those cells exist in one body, imagine you're one cell in the heart, and I'm one cell in the leg. And then there's another Bill Gates, that's the cell in the pinky toe, right? And then there's another 10 cells that represent the sleeping collective of humanity. Whether we like it or not, we're part of that one body. And what Bill Gates does in the pinky and what the 10 cells do in the other leg are going to affect me and you. I don't call that a harsh reality. I call that a beautiful reality. The reason why I call that a beautiful reality is because just like the Bill Gates in the pinky and the 10 cells in the leg have the opportunity and the ability to negatively impact us, guess what we have? We have the ability and the opportunity to positively impact them because we're one unit. This isn't about, you can't say, what do you mean? I'm in the heart and I'm trying to do good things as the cell in the heart. Why do I have to deal with what's going on in the leg? Because you're one unit and we're all responsible for each other. That's why, like it says on my shirt, unity in humanity. It's not about me and you. There is no I in this whole big picture. So I think it's a beautiful thing, not a harsh reality. A lot of people see it in a negative light of why do I have to deal with the consequences of other people's actions? Because we're one unit. Because we are one, we will always be one. And until we come to realize that, we're going to be in this problem. But when we come to realize that, people will start acting and behaving differently to positively impact even the psychopaths that we speak about. When we can start acting in that way through a universal united consciousness, we can change the world.
Sure. I talk a lot about the dynamic of manifestation, part of the natural laws of the universe. And within that, by focusing on doom and gloom and dreadful outcomes, our collective consciousness can actually help to create it if enough people are focused in that direction, which is why the mainstream news is fear-based mind control. They want to keep people in that negative state of consciousness so that it affects the play out of things. But the opposite, of course, is also true in this world of polarities and duality. And messages such as yours are always inspiring and positive, and there's many of those being put out there. And so we can actually take control of that dynamic and bring about a situation that serves us in terms of what we wish to achieve through our will and our intent, rather than being led and coerced down the route of fear. So that's another beautiful thing, just to tie into what you were saying.
Yeah, I appreciate that.
Let's talk a bit about your individual work then. You've got your unified platform at the moment. Just tell us what that's all about. Unified,
I created to solve a problem that I was facing. That not just me, that we're all facing. That problem is called censorship of information. So I created Unified as, well, it started as a streaming platform that was just streaming interviews, live shows, Q&As, discussions, guided meditation, things to help us expand spiritually. From there, I saw the problem of social media. I was deplatformed. So I said, okay, what do we do? How do we fix this? So I said, let's just build our own social media platform. Only, how do we create a social media platform that revolutionizes social media to begin with? So there's a saying that we all know, it's follow the money. Right now, who has the power when it comes to social media, when it comes to media in general? And the answer to that question is the advertisers. Why do they have the power? Because the advertisers are the ones paying the platforms money to advertise, meaning the current platforms, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, CNN, Fox News, all of these media platforms in general are being funded by advertisers. Who are the advertisers? Big pharma, fast food chains, many individual organizations in that realm of, again, more suppression and corrupt agendas. So those media platforms will never allow to speak poorly about their advertisers, because if they do, their advertisers leave. And then they no longer have funding for a platform. So I revolutionized the model to create the first ever social media platform that is not funded by advertisers, but is funded by the people. In about a month from now, probably even less actually, it's going to be open to the public and free to use, meaning up until now, while we were going through whatever we were going through to figure everything out to be able to fund it, it was $4.99 a month. It's about to be open for free for the public on unified.com, unifyd.com, for everybody to use. And the way that it's funded is through our higher tier membership of a streaming platform. So think Facebook and Netflix come together without the corruption. Facebook is free. Netflix is a streaming platform that people will pay for to be able to fund the social media side of Unified. So there's Unified Social and there's Unified Premium. Unified Premium is the tier that costs money. You can access that, access incredible content with some of the best and most amazing leaders in the world in this freedom movement of waking people up, from the Del Bigtrees to the Robert F. Kennedy Jr.'s to the David Ikes, Dr. Judy Mikovits, Dr. Pilevsky, Dr. Christiane Northrup. I mean, the list goes on and on and on. That supports Unified Social to keep Unified Social free. And it's very simple how this is going to evolve. If people support it, it will succeed. If people don't, it will fail. It's as simple as that. So it's not counting on investors or advertisements to stay afloat. Because again, if we did that, then the power is in the hands of the advertisers. I wanted to build the platform in a way where if I'm not here tomorrow and somebody takes over, it's not contingent on somebody trusting the person that takes over, because the platform is built in a way of checks and balances. If we piss the people off, the people are the ones funding the platform. You piss the people off, you lose the people, you lose funding, you don't have a platform. So it's built in a way where we have to answer the people, and therefore the power is in the hands of the people.
And do you want to tell us about your 3 books, what they're all about?
Sure. My first book is called Forming the Formless. Forming the Formless is all about foundations and illusions, foundations of what I would call the universal laws of creation. Could be the law of harmony, the law of balance, the line of manifestation, how things come into physical form from what I would call the formless realm, where all form and all potential possibility of infinity exists. So that book was the first book I've ever written, really giving a foundation to what I believe are the tools of awareness through understanding the foundations and then understanding illusions like death, separation, and time. The second book I've written is called The Language of Energy. That's actually an expansion of chapter 3 from my first book. And The Language of Energy speaks all about the language of energy, manifesting how to speak the language of energy, just like an electrician knows the laws of electricity, so they can turn on light in a room and use it in a way where electricity serves them. In that same way, if we know the laws of energy and the language of energy, we can become masters of energy and manifestation, meaning we will no longer be the servants to it, it will be serving us, just like electricity serves us today. And the third book I wrote is called Rays of Knowledge, with a foreword written by Dr. Christiane Northrup. She's amazing. Rays of Knowledge is all about my personal story leading into this world, with very interesting events that happened along the way to bring me to where I'm at today.
Okay. Do you want to just expand on that? Was it like a gradual process, or was it a singular moment of epiphany that kind of gave you an understanding of these spiritual and metaphysical matters that you talk about? Or was it just, experiences that you went through that got you on that path?
Sure. I would say all of the above and more. It started with, call it epiphanies, just times where I started seeing things differently and started living my life differently. That led to very interesting events where Rays of Knowledge will explain. I was approached by an individual who is a part of an organization. That organization is called TLS, otherwise known as the Light System. The Light System it's a physical organization. You could think about them just like the CIA. They have offices in every major city in the world, made up of roughly now just over 8,000 initiated agents around the world. Some of them are very, very well known. Most of them are not. They just work under an alias. And everybody lives a double life. That's a part of the organization. I am not formally initiated into the organization, but when I was approached about 3.5 years ago, that's when certain things started for real in my life through this gradual disclosure process of showing me certain things, giving me access to certain information, very powerful information having to do with, yes, the spiritual nature of life, all the way to extraterrestrial life, high technology, the corrupt agenda, underground tunnels, child sex trafficking, very, very crazy stuff that's going on in the world. Of course, TLS is on the side of the light. They're here to help. They're here to guide. They're here to assist us in reaching that destiny without doing it for us. And there's a fine line in that, because if they do it for us, that's how you take free will away from people, where you're taking away the opportunities for us to ascend ourselves and doing it for us. So they will not do that, but they do assist by, in many, many ways. They can be leaders of certain movements that are against suppression and what's going on in the world today. They could be producers. They could be world leaders. They could be people in the government that are making sure certain things work a certain way. So they got their hands everywhere. I was approached by them 3.5 years ago, and Rays of Knowledge explains the process by which I went through, coupled with the experiences that I had the opportunity of experiencing and the privilege of experiencing, that I was able to share in that book to give everybody an idea of what's been going on, and just incredible stuff, incredible stuff that's very eye-opening and expansive.
Are you feeling optimistic about how things are going to pan out for us all in the months ahead? I'm not going to ask you to make any specific predictions, because we're already drowning in predictions and prophecies and such. But generally, are you feeling optimistic and positive about where we're all headed?
I've always felt optimistic, but my optimism doesn't mean, that's not to say that people aren't going to die and people aren't going to get sick and people aren't going to get hurt. Again, I don't see all of those events as negative events. They suck, but if that's what we choose to happen, that's going to be the consequence to get to our destiny. So I only see good, right? I only see good. If a lot of people, let's say, were to unfortunately transition tomorrow as a consequence of choices that they made, by transition, I mean die, that was a part of the path of life. That was a part of our process of reaching our destiny. There is nothing that can happen that I will call bad in the big picture. I don't believe in bad in the big picture, because, again, our destiny is inevitable. So I will always be optimistic. I've always been optimistic. I do believe that we're coming closer to reaching that destiny in a quicker manner. But with that said, I do think that there are going to be what people would refer to as tragedies along the way, because that's what we're choosing to happen right now. Theoretically, could we change that? Absolutely. Probability-wise, are we doing that right now based on what we're seeing? No. Right now, people are going down the path, maybe more and more waking up, absolutely. But there are still a lot of people going down the path where they will get hurt. And those people in many ways will act as sacrifices to help humanity see other things. So it's all good. It's just a matter of what is your perspective? I don't see death in negative light. I don't see anything in negative light, because it's all bringing us to our inevitable destiny of harmony.
All right. Well, I appreciate your perspectives on that. And I'm sure a lot of people out there have found value in your positive messages to carry them through these difficult times. And I'm sure that will continue. So I want to thank you for coming on the show today, Jason.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Mark.
This is just for fun.
I'm picking up vibrations. I'm picking up vibrations. I'm picking up vibrations.